What is up, species? Welcome to a brand new Flash breakdown and review. This is for episode 5, titled Fear Me. And overall, this just felt like a kind of in-between episode. You had a kind of villain of the week, but at least this villain of the week definitely is amounting to the Speed Force, or should I say the other forces that Barry and Team Flash are slowly but surely kind of cottoning on to. But first of all, in this video, I want to very briefly go over the recent casting of Impulse. Yes, we're getting, no, not Barry and Iris's grandson, Bart Allen, but it turns out that the Flash's Impulse, or this iteration in the CW's Arrowverse canon, Impulse will indeed be Barry and Iris's son. Now, this raises many questions. Does this get rid of Nora? Is this a new thing where in this iteration, Bart Allen and Nora are one half of the Tornado Twins, each making, the Tornado Twins? Who knows? I don't think they're going to get rid of Nora, by the way, so I'm assuming that in this kind of adaptation, because, it's not always copy and paste, hence why Impulse is now their son, I just take it that they are brother and sister. Maybe Crisis changed something or another, but I do think they will get Nora. I don't think Jessica Parker Kennedy's kind of face to one of their children is going anywhere. It's just that we've now got another child. Now, there was a little bit of confusion around this because various places were reporting, and I believe it even still says on Deadline that he's the grandson, but I believe the CW have come out and clarified that Bart Allen, aka Impulse, will indeed be Barry and Iris's son. Various descriptions say that Barry and Iris may have their work cut out for them to wrangle Bart, but they will have to get it together if they want to stop Team Flash's biggest threat, amongst the typical description of how he has a penchant for wildly impulsive behavior. So Barry and Iris will definitely have their hands full trying to teach him patience. So how do I feel about this before we get into the breakdown for today's episode? Look, I was a bigger fan than most people were of Nora joining the family, if you will. I loved the concept of a future child, a future speedster child, coming back in time, and not only that, being mentored by the Reverse Flash. I loved all of that premise, but to kind of do it all over again, granted with different circumstances, it's not like he's going to be taught by the Reverse Flash or anything like that. It's just, really, you're going to bring in the other kid now, and it's going to be like another kid season, because we are getting him towards the very end of this season, and you have to assume, at least, that he will echo throughout season 8, or at least, carry over. I'm not going to judge it too harsh right now. It's just, I know it's a different character. I know he's going to be kind of different from Nora, even though you could argue Nora had a lot of the tendencies and demeanor of Bart Allen, but regardless, I'm not massively hyped for it now. The aspect I am hyped for is to see another kind of speedster. I can't deny I'm absolutely dying to know what it kind of looks like with Barry and Iris interacting with their son and stuff like that, but are we going to go through some of the same tropes and newbie mistakes and, oh, I didn't listen to you, Dad, oh, I'm mad at you, Mum, from Impulse, just like what we saw with Nora? It's just a bit, I don't know yet. We're going to have to wait and see, ultimately. And as for this episode, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to sound like I'm, raining on anyone's parade. It just felt like an okay episode. As I said, this kind of meta we got obviously is linked to the whole rebirth of the Speed Force and how that, sent out different lightning bolts, imbuing other people. I just don't know if I'm here for this story. I didn't find this villain particularly menacing. I found a lot of, I tried to be into the episode as much as I could, but I still didn't find myself caring for what I was seeing too much. I don't know if anyone can resonate with that. I was still being entertained in some moments more than others here and there, but I'm still just like, Do you know what I mean? This all started off with Barry looking at ways to try and track the thing that attacked him, because the thing, as it's being referred to at the beginning of the episode, had this rare geothermic isotope that satellites could track. And it makes sense, right? Because as they described in the episode, this being, this strength force kind of big person at the end of last episode, absorbed an antimatter bomb, and now, for all we know, they are anywhere in Central City, causing all kinds of issues. And Barry is quite fearful, to the point, as we saw later on in the episode, one of his fears was seeing all his loved ones dead, actually as a result of Fueza's actions. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Now, just to jump over to this, because it's fairly self-contained in the episode, we also had a bit of Killer Frost story going on. Obviously, at the end of last episode, their bodies were separate, and now Cisco introduces Team Flash to Killer Frost. And you could tell right from the get-go, as we had Caitlin quite adamant on reconnecting the bodies. That was being kind of solved through the Firestorm Matrix being slightly modified, and you could see on the other half of things that Killer Frost didn't want that to happen, which you can completely understand, because now she has full reign 24/7. Why would you want to go back to sharing a body? Like, the thing about this is, I was interested in it, but when it got to the point towards the end where they were having that heart-to-heart, I mean, sure, it was nice, but I don't know, it's yet another storyline which is just like, it's okay, I guess. I just feel like, am I the only one feeling this way? I just wasn't completely compelled by it. I didn't hate it, I didn't dislike it. It was just like, oh, okay. I was more interested in the very cliffhanger, where all of a sudden, I was really worried, by the way. I was really worried that they were going to do the whole Arrow season 6, was it? Season 7? I can't remember, where they were trying to find a green arrow and they knew it was Oliver Queen and that was all exposed. I was really, really hoping that they weren't going to do, oh, you've had the Flash working at the CCPD this whole time. We don't know who it is, but we have enough evidence to believe that the Flash works. I thought they were going to do that, especially when Joe says, you're going to arrest the Flash or something, but thank God they're not doing that. I just wanted to put that out there. I don't know if anyone else was worrying about that, but it's about Killer Frost. So, like, I guess that's kind of fair game in a way, because, there has been, would you call it a plot hole? But lots of people have raised questions like, why is nobody, in Central City kicking up a fuss with how Killer Frost has been in public assisting, and albeit doing heroic actions, it never really addressed by the law. And I suppose they're bringing that in, but I don't know. I guess it's really sounding like I'm really disinterested in this show right now, and I want to promise you guys I'm not, because I'm definitely looking forward to things that we've got coming, like Godspeed, this, that, and the other. It's just that these storylines I'm just not so resonating with right now, because as for this, am I really hyped to see what's going to go on with this random-ass Department of Defense person who served time is now looking for Killer Frost? I guess I'm going to wait to see what happens, but overall, I'm not looking forward to it. Are you really looking forward to it? Because, and it's, the same goes for this storyline with these other forces. And even with the Speed Force coming back this episode, being manifested into a body, I don't know if this is getting a bit too far-fetched for me now. I'm kind of fascinated, but now we have the Speed Force actually contained within a body, and it's nice seeing the actor for Nora back, but it's like, I don't know. I don't know if I'm really here for it. I was kind of hoping that this season we'd really be diving head over heels into the speedster mythology of things, but I didn't really want to see these other forces come into action and appoint other various beings with the Strength Force and God, what, the Fear Force? Dude, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's not as compelling of a story as what I was hoping it'd be this season. I know we're quite early on as what I thought we were going to really dive head into heels with, as I said, with weird speedstery stuff and how it was teased in the future Godspeed was sent back by the one who wants ultimate velocity. And yeah, we've got all that to come. It's just, for now, I feel like I'm kind of tempering the current story and episodes that we've got. I mean, who knows? As I said, when we get into the more Bart Allen Impulse territory, Godspeed stuff, I think that's where I'm really going to be a lot more subscribed to the episodes we're getting. But yeah, as Cisco said himself, it's kind of like having Zeus coming down from Olympus disguised as a mere mortal. We have the very embodiment of the Speed Force here, and at the very end of the episode, I guess I'm just jumping to it, when she said they're like me, the explanation for that is, well, if she is the manifestation of the Speed Force itself, just put into a being and a body, well, the Strength Force, Fuerza Lady, is the embodiment of that lightning bolt force and construct, an elemental universal balance of a force, if that makes sense, put into one body, and then that freaking psych person, similar thing there. And these are big deals because this is going to kind of explain to Team Flash as the next episode or two unfolds that it's like, okay, well, if you are the pinnacle Speed Force embodiment, and before now, that's all we had. The Speed Force was the Speed Force. There wasn't other Strength Forces, but you can see it already in the next episode. They're going to hypothesize that, through rebirthing the Speed Force and giving it, well, it technically never died anyway, even though Barry said, like, the Speed Force was dead. It was in Iris, so it's just like, no, it technically wasn't dead. But moving on, they're going to figure out with that experiment that they did, it created new elemental forces that are now embodied in these other individuals, which kind of poises them up to be serious big bads. And I'm not necessarily saying they're going to be put forward as really, really big bads, but technically they are. I mean, for crying out loud, Fereza freaking absorbed an antimatter bomb. And at the end of the day, to use Cisco's analogy here, each one of those forces that embodied into another person are just like their own Zeuses coming down from Olympus, disguised as their own mere mortals, even though one of them is like a massive person in a leotard. But I don't know, I'm just not looking forward to seeing more of that CGI model. I'm not looking forward to seeing some more kind of costume fear psych people. Do you know what I mean? That's kind of, I know this sounds so negative, this review. I'm really not trying. I'm just trying to be really honest with you guys. Are you really enjoying this episode? Like, I'm not saying there's even inherently anything wrong with it. It's just I'm not as interested as what I'd hoped I'd be. One cool thing to come out of the fear and psych aspect of this episode is when Barry was first introduced to his own fears, and this enabled him to see the reverse Flash, and he's just like, no, I'm not afraid of you anymore. This is just hallucination. But technically, if you weren't afraid of him, then you wouldn't have seen him. So yeah, he's definitely someone Barry's scared of, and well, it's kind of obvious. Then we had Savitar impale him through the speedster symbol, which is pretty cool because I kind of like how Barry is still kind of afraid of himself. That kind of shows that if he saw a possible version of himself go bad, that is still something that is in the back of his mind this many years later. But the main fear, as Syke said, that those aren't your fears. This is what you're really afraid of. And then it was people dead, his loved ones dead in the CCPD, and that was because Fereza killed them. So it does seem like Fereza is still quite the potential future threat, which is I'm still like very on, because that's like I think it's a ridiculous kind of looking CGI kind of thing. I don't think we're going to get all too much character substance out of Fereza either. I mean, are we really just going to see Fereza talk and open up about her feelings and understand her motivations? I just don't see that happening unless she reverts back to like a smaller scale human form. So I really do just feel like she's going to serve nothing but like a hulking kind of threat of a video game boss for our Star Labs team. Just want to point out as well that you can notice, and I noticed this like the last couple of episodes as well, but we had a shirtless scene this episode. You can notice how much muscle Grant Gustin has put on. He has talked about this on his Instagram, and I've noticed it anyway, but finally we got that scene where he has literally put a lot of muscle pump on. So for those people who were saying like the Flash is too skinny, like, I'm sorry, if you look at those freaking biceps, he is filled out 10 times more, and fair play to him, because it really does look like he's put the work in and made some great progress there. So just in case you didn't notice, or if you thought, oh damn, Grant Gustin looks like he's kind of, putting on quite a bit of muscle, well, he has. Either way though, guys, like all this episode kind of bleeds into one for me, because other than talking about Psyche inducing fears and then like everyone reacting, and then it's just like using the power of Cecile, which I don't dislike Cecile, but I'm just not interested in Cecile moments. So the whole stuff with the Thinker's chair, like it's very, I feel like when Cecile is on screen, the scenes are more often than not very eccentric. Do you know what I mean? The kind of like borderline overacted kind of moments. And I want to say this in the most kind of respectful way, but I also don't feel into these moments as well. I mean, it was pretty cool how Barry, penetrated Psyche's barrier that he put up over the city after infecting everyone, but it was once again another situation which people are commenting about, where the power of just overcoming something out of, I guess, heroic resolve, which Barry is, out of most heroes out there, he can summon the most resolve and courage and love, but it's a similar vein to what people were complaining about in the past couple of episodes with how things resolve. Now, having said just resolve though, things weren't exactly resolved for Barry, because since he's connected to the Speed Force, which is now connected to a whole spider's web tree of other forces, he also got a massive kind of glitch out towards the end where he has to go into the cryopod to heal himself, which also puts him in a coma. The interesting thing this represents in general is that Barry can't exactly combat the other forces with the Speed Force, because they just seem to absorb it, so they kind of need to think of these creative other ways to go about this, and we know that these other forces have attacked Nora, the embodied Speed Force in the Nora body, because as she said herself, Psyche was the second of her attackers, the first being the Strength Forces Fuerza. But once again, I just kind of put it to you guys, at least in my subjective opinion, I'm still just finding this very, like, I'm not massively locked into this storyline. I can kind of see where it's going. I'm definitely not going to deny future twists and turns that may really catch me off guard, and I might really like it. But for now, I'm just not really too flared up about this current storyline. For all intents and purposes, this episode was like a half decent one, but for me as well, just subjectively, I wasn't really locked into the story, as I said. So with that in mind as well, I didn't really think it was that great. I don't know why. I don't even find myself that subscribed to the whole Killer Frost storyline that's going on. Even if you got the Law chasing after her past now, it's like, okay, well, you could kind of see where this is going to go. I kind of miss the days of really thinking, oh man, what's going to happen on The Flash? Oh, is this really going to happen? Oh, what's going to go on there? Whereas I feel like now, it's almost like they're reaching into the empty pockets and you're kind of pulling some things out, but it's not really, the golden nuggets that we used to get every once in a while. That only seems to come like once a season now, if at all. And those, unfortunately, are the vibes I'm getting, but hey, we're going to have to wait and see, guys. I'm going to just ask you, let me know what you thought of this episode. I'm sure plenty of you did very much so enjoy it, but I don't know. I'm feeling this echo of sentiment about The Flash now. 7 years in. This is 7 long years we've watched 7 long seasons with now. And I just want to know where you think we're at. Where are you guys at with this current storyline in season 7? I do want to hold my own horses, though. Pump the brakes. We're only on episode 5. Like, I'm not judging. I'm just saying, just merely being completely honest with you guys. Like, hey, I still love this show, but where it's going right now, I don't particularly care about these subplots or even the main plot for that matter right now. But hey, I trust you guys can respect my opinion there. Maybe you can tell me what makes you so interested about it, and maybe that will kind of help me understand what people are really loving about this. But for me, I'm just kind of zoning out a little bit. But hey, I'm still very optimistic about the future of this season because we are getting into Godspeed stuff. I am pretty interested about seeing Impulse and what that could do to the show. Maybe they could correct all the flaws that people had with Nora being in the show, even though I really liked that. They could definitely improve in areas that people thought were kind of weak with that. Maybe not retread some of the same mistakes having another child on the show, because I do feel like this is basically reusing a similar formula, and that's a bit should you really do that? Because surely having another kid meet your parent, there's going to be some similar things and disagreements happening that we saw with Nora happen again with Bart Allen, aka Impulse, with his parents. But we're gonna have to wait and see there. So like this video, guys, if you did enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my thoughts on The Flash and other news videos on comic book nerdy stuff. Check out the top pinned comment to follow me on Twitter, to check out other places to support me. You can hit the join button. I want to thank all the members who have joined this channel and also those who support me on Patreon. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you speedsters in the next video. Goodbye.